5:17 local time, Northern Arabian Sea. The first flash hits the screen so fast it looks like a radar glitch. Inside the Combat Information Center of an outer screen destroyer, for half a second, nobody says a single word. The tactical action officer leans forward, eyes locked on the display, and the room's energy shifts instantly. Surface to air track, bearing 038, fast mover, low. A second contact flashes, then a third. The silence is gone. The room fills with clipped voices, rapid typing, and headset chatter. That low mechanical hum of a warship shifting from watch to combat without wasting a movement. On the main display, 3 tracks are stretching out from the Iranian coast, screaming cold and fast over dark water toward the carrier strike group. Nobody needs an explanation for what that flight profile means. The officer at the console yells it out anyway. Possible coastal launch, multiple inbound, time to outer screen, under 4 minutes. Up on the bridge, the sea still looks calm. First light is lifting over the horizon, turning the water steel blue and flat, perfect for hiding danger. Across the formation, alarms are already spreading faster than the sunrise. On the carrier, flight crews freeze and look instinctively toward the island. On the port cruiser, spy radar is already painting the tracks and feeding data into the network. On the destroyer, sitting closest to the threat axis, the captain steps to the center line, watching the horizon through glass that reflects nothing but instruments and raw tension. He does not shout. Set condition 3 throughout the screen. Weapons tight pending final confirmation. The order pulses through the ship like electricity. Below deck, sailors strap in. Hatches slam shut. Consoles wake fully. Out on the weather decks, mounts rotate just enough to be seen. No motion is wasted. The carrier at the center of the formation holds her course. No panic turns, no dramatic breaks. Just disciplined speed and spacing, total trust in a kill chain that has to work perfectly. In the CIC, data sharpens. The tracks are low, sea-skimming, and accelerating. An operator switches, filters, checks again, then speaks with more urgency. Confirmed. Not aircraft or surface clutter. These are missiles. A beat passes. Then the tactical officer answers with a calm that only sounds cold because fear has no place left to stand. Report to the group. Multiple anti-ship missiles inbound from the Iranian coast. On the secure net, the message flashes out instantly. Every ship in the formation receives it simultaneously. The carrier group is no longer just watching a possible threat develop. It is under attack. At 5:18, bridge-to-bridge warnings hit the open channels. Iranian coastal station. Iranian coastal station. This is a United States Navy formation operating lawfully in international waters. You are engaging United States naval vessels. Cease fire immediately. No response. A second transmission follows, firmer this time, and then a third. Nothing comes back but static. Silence tells its own story. The enemy is not probing, not posturing, and not trying to scare anyone off with radio traffic. Somebody on that shoreline has already made the fatal decision to fire. Now the only question left is whether the first American intercept happens far away or way too close. At 5:19, the fleet begins to shift. Outer destroyers drift wider, angling hulls to perfect the intercept path. The cruiser pivots slightly to cover a second attack path. Up on the carrier island, air defense officers scan the tactical plot as crews rush to secure gear and clear the exposed flight deck. No shouting here. The tactical dance is far too rehearsed. Sailors who have drilled this 100 times are now facing the real thing. And reality is always much quieter than people would think. Inside the lead destroyer combat center, A single inbound track suddenly splits in two. Then another. "Stand by," the operator mutters, his voice tightening for once. More returns. "We have multiple. Total count is 5. No, make that 6. That hits hard. 3 was a threat. 6 is a statement. 6 means intent. Whoever fired these did not just want a lucky hit. They wanted saturation. Total chaos. They hoped to catch at least one American ship off guard in the opening seconds. But being caught off guard is exactly what this fleet avoids. The Aegis operator prioritizes targets. The range numbers start dropping. Impact timers shrink. The threats close in on the outer screen. Then one missile swerves, just slightly, but enough to make the entire room go cold. It is no longer targeting the lead destroyer. It is diving deep into the formation, aiming right for the carrier. On the bridge, the captain watches the plot for a silent second, then gives the order they have all been waiting for. Confirmation received. You are weapons free. In the combat center, nobody flinches. They just work faster. Target data locks, fire control solutions are steady now. Missile crews hold their breath, waiting for the command to strike back. Across the fleet, American warships prepare to meet incoming steel with their own. And on every screen in the strike group, the same grim truth is clearly visible. Iran has fired first, and the first wave is only beginning. At 5:19 local time, the first intercept solution is set. Inside the Aegis Destroyer Combat Center, the tactical screen is no longer a map. It is a countdown. 6 hostile missiles skim fast over the waves. Each one moves fast enough to turn hesitation into disaster. Their altitude is low, their spacing is terrifyingly precise. Their flight paths are designed to split the defense and force the carrier group to fight in layers. The tactical officer doesn't blink. Engage outer raid. Assign shooters. Priority on tracks 1 through 4. Hold the close layer for leakers. That one command says it all. Neutralize the first wave far out. Save the last defense for anything that breaks through. Across the entire strike group, the response is instant. Data from the cruiser, destroyers, and carrier sensors merge into one single picture. Every ship tracks the same missiles. Every team sees the same math. And every captain knows the rule. If the outer screen fails, the fight gets desperate. On the forward edge of the fleet, the first destroyer pivots to sharpen its radar window. Another ship on the port side mirrors the maneuver. Formations holding. They're actually carving out a kill zone. Hostile track 1, bearing 037. Range closing. Track 2's hostile, same corridor. Track 3 is maneuvering. Track 4, steady, sea skimming. Numbers are falling. Then the command, fire. Deep inside the hull, the vertical launch system erupts with precision. A missile blasts from its cell, rolls into dawn, and ignites over the waves. A second follows a heartbeat later. Then comes a third. From far off, it looks clean, quiet, almost peaceful. Inside the CIC, no one's admiring the view. Every eye's on the scope, watching symbols merge, flare, then vanish. The first intercept hits way out, far from the formation. Hostile track blinks, then disappears. Splash 1. No cheering, just confirmation. A second interceptor climbs, arcs, and dives toward another inbound threat. The enemy missile jinks low, hiding in sea clutter, but our systems are already well ahead. Splash, 2 down, 4 more are still coming. Along the carrier's center line, the flight deck transforms in seconds. Yellow shirts, red shirts, handlers, and the ordnance crews. Everyone moves with urgency. knowing the next blast could rip right across this open steel if it breaks through. Jets, staged for routine ops, are being secured, chained down, and cleared from the edge. Fire crews wait at key points with charged hoses and gear ready. No one is panicking. Everyone is just moving very fast. Up on the bridge, the air defense commander monitors the net and the tactical plot. 2 kills at long range, 1 more intercept is underway. But the entire shape of this attack is shifting. Out on the screen, an Iranian missile drops lower and swings wide, slipping under the radar. Another follows seconds later, offset just enough to mess with our timing. The operator calls it, raid is splitting. 2 inbounds pushing the south corridor. Possible saturation tactic. Actually, that is exactly what it is. These missiles were never meant to arrive in a straight line. They're designed to pull ships apart, force early fire, and create a single opening to punch through. The cruiser on the carrier's flank engages. The cruiser has the shot. A fresh pair of interceptors leave their cells, climbing into the morning sky. On the shared display, the geometry is tightening up fast. For 2 seconds, 3 symbols race directly toward one another. One hostile track vanishes, splash 3, but the second is still there. It survives the first window and keeps coming, skimming so low it almost disappears into the surface noise now. Now the room goes quiet, not because danger's fading, but because it's getting closer. At 5:20, the outer layer did its job, but not entirely. 3 hostile missiles are now confirmed, destroyed. A 4th is likely broken up somewhere beyond visual range, but 2 are still inbound, and 1's no longer tracking the destroyer. It's reaching inward, heading straight for the carrier's defensive ring. The tactical action officer shifts gears instantly, reassign tracks. Hold long shots on Leaker 2. Prepare the close layer. I repeat, prepare the close layer. That order changes the vibe for every ship out here. Long-range intercepts are mostly system work. Fast, precise, and almost clinical. Close layer defense hits differently. It means the reaction window is literally collapsing. It means sailors on deck hear the engagement. It is no longer just a dot on a screen. It means the final kill must happen now, with almost zero margin left for error. On an escorting destroyer, the close-in weapon team brings the entire system to combat readiness. Mounts slew, radar locks, ammunition feeds, everything now hangs on split-second angles. Inside the carrier island, the plot updates. 1 missile is still outside the inner defensive ring. The other has crossed it. Silence fills the room until CIC breaks the tension. Leaker confirmed. Bearing 041. Fast. Way too fast. Out on the water. No Hollywood fireballs yet, no dramatic smoke plumes, just the cold gray light of dawn. Sea haze, and a carrier group holding steady while death skims the surface toward them. Then the officer on the destroyer speaks the words that tighten every nerve in the network. Target is inside the kill box. At 5:20 local time, the enemy missile breaches the inner defensive ring. On the tactical display, that icon is small, steady, and moving with terrifying speed. Inside the destroyer's combat information center, everyone knows exactly what that symbol means. The outer layer did its job, but 1 threat slipped through. An Iranian sea-skimming missile has survived the long-range interceptors and is now sprinting hard across the open water, using the curve of the ocean and surface clutter to stay alive just a few seconds longer. A few seconds is all it needs. Leaker bearing 041, range 9 miles. The voice sounds controlled, but that number hits the room like a sledgehammer. 9 miles at that velocity is not distance. It is time running out. On the destroyer guarding the carrier's starboard side, the close-in defense team is fully locked in. The ship angles slightly, positioning itself between the inbound track and the heart of the fleet. It is not a flashy maneuver, just steel turning a few degrees with absolute deadly purpose. Enough to fix the geometry, enough to get a clear visual, enough to act as a shield if the final intercept fails. On the bridge, the captain watches a horizon pale with the light of early morning. He does not need a status report to know what his ship is doing. He ordered this move before anyone could ask. Hold course. Keep the carrier covered. Below deck, the weapon mount slews with mechanical calm. Radar sensors refine the lock. Fire control narrows the solution. Every system on board is now focused on one goal. Kill that missile before it crosses the wire. The carrier stays in formation behind them. No breaking formation, no panic, no smoke, no chaos, just cold, professional control. The center of the strike group trusts its escorts to do exactly what they were built for. Back in CIC, the range ticks down. 8 miles. Track stable. Altitude unchanged. That last part is critical. The missile is not climbing for a dive. It is staying low in the weeds, hugging the sea, forcing the defense to fight with zero margin. It was programmed for exactly this. Fired from the coast, pushed low over water, it was not meant to be seen, just to arrive. Then a new voice cuts in from the cruiser net. Second leaker detected, outbound from the north. Delayed track, possible follow-on strike. No one on the destroyer reacts outwardly, but the implications are terrifyingly clear. This is not just one surviving missile. There could be another one trailing right behind it. The fleet could be seconds away from 2 close-range engagements, back to back. But the first one is already here. Range 6 miles. The order comes instantly. Engage the inner layer. A missile defense system fires from the destroyer with a sharp, violent punch. It climbs, rolls, and drives toward the inbound track. For a second, the display tightens into a single converging knot, then nothing. The hostile track is still there. No splash, no confirmed kill. CIC stays silent. Nobody freezes. Training wipes emotion away and leaves only the sequence. Interceptor missed. Re-engage. Now the room feels different. Not louder, smaller. Because every person inside understands the same brutal fact. The first shot failed and the missile is still running. Range 4 miles. On the carrier's island, officers stare at the data and say almost nothing. Flight deck crews stay low behind equipment and tied down aircraft. Fire teams are posted exactly where they need to be. The massive ship keeps moving, but the tension across her decks is physical, like pressure before a blast. From the escort destroyer's deck, nobody can see the missile yet. Just glare on the water and a hard horizon, but the ship's systems see it perfectly. That's enough. The captain speaks once. Take it. This time, the answer skips the missile cells entirely. It comes from closer in. The weapon system spins to life with a rising mechanical scream. Fast and hungry, tracking faster than any human eye can follow. Radar locks, barrel cluster turns. The final shield is now awake. Range 3 miles, then 2.5, then 2. The gun opens up from outside. It is a burst of fire so dense it looks almost solid. A stream of metal hurled over the water into empty space where, seconds later, the space is no longer empty. The missile flashes into view for the first time. Low, fast, barely above the surface, then the rounds reach it. The sea ahead of the formation erupts. Not a clean fireball, but a violent, ripping, mid-air disintegration just off the starboard axis. Close enough for fragments and flame to scatter across the water in a widening spray. The shock wave rolls low over the surface. Burning debris slaps into the sea and skips away in pieces. Inside CIC, the symbol disappears. A half-second later, splash, splash, confirmed splash. No one celebrates because the blast was close, very close. On the destroyer's bridge, the windows shudder faintly from the concussion. On the carrier, sailors flinch as the distant burst throws a sharp orange glare across the waterline. For a moment, everyone in the formation knows exactly how narrow that margin was. The shield held, but only just. Then the next report comes in. New emissions from the Iranian coast. Another operator turns in his chair. Thermal spike at the probable launch area. Additional radar activity inland. The tactical action officer looks back to the display. The first leaker is gone. The second track is still uncertain. But farther east, beyond the sea haze, the shoreline is waking up again. He says it quietly, they are not done. And at 5:21 local time, as smoke still drifts where the first missile died. American surveillance assets begin confirming the one thing nobody in the carrier group wanted to hear. The launch sites on the Iranian coast are active again. At 5:21 local time, the battle shifts gear. Until now, the carrier group was purely reactive, intercepting, absorbing heat, and holding the line. But as American sensors detect new signals from Iran, defensive measures are no longer the priority. This incoming barrage was not a lucky shot from a single, hidden truck. It was a coordinated strike from a live network, and that system is still hungry. Inside the Combat Direction Center, the tactical map sharpens with every second. Radar pings, thermal blooms, and possible mobile launchers are clustering along the jagged shoreline. The Air Warfare Commander studies the screen, tracing the lethal geometry in heavy silence. Ghostly tracks of the first salvo still linger on screen. They arc from shore to sea like scars that refuse to fade. Now, fresh intelligence is bleeding over those lines. Electronic support from the escorts meets infrared data from the skies. Ships that were just fighting for their lives are now feeding in bearing cuts. Isolated, each data point helps. Combined, they form a target. Probable coastal battery, an operator reports. Mobile launch unit with radar support, another voice crackles over the internal comms. A second emitter just went live inland. Different angle. Could be backup fire control. That is plenty. The strike group does not need words or speeches. It does not need anger. It needs targets. And the clarity is coming. Someone on that shore fired. And they are clearly getting ready to fire again. The only question is whether the Americans can break the kill chain before another missile launches. On the bridge, the Admiral takes the news with the same cold stillness that ruled the battle. Do we have a lock? The reply is instant, good enough to suppress. Improving every second. He nods once. Turn the tide of battle. Those 5 words hit harder than any missile. Across the fleet, the carrier group shifts from shield to blade. The escorts keep scanning the horizon, staying defensive in case more missiles are already in the air. But behind that wall, the carrier's air wing is roaring to life for a very different mission. This is no longer air defense. This is counterfire. On the flight deck, crews who were bracing for impact are now prepping for launch. Chocks are pulled. The chains come free. Ordnance teams work under the wings with the fluid speed of sailors who have practiced this in the dark. The smell of jet fuel bites the morning air. Engines begin to scream, one by one. No panic, just raw acceleration. The first jets are not meant for show. They're going in to tear open a corridor. Electronic warfare leads the way because those coastal batteries stay dangerous only as long as they can see and talk. Blind the radar, shatter the network, and the launcher becomes a sitting duck. Just a machine in the open, waiting for a strike. Inside the planning room, the strike order is issued in cold, hard terms. First, pinpoint the radar emitter controlling the coastal battery. Second, jam the targeting. Third, isolate the launch unit from the network. Finally, destroy the launchers and support trucks before they can retreat. Forget revenge. This is pure systems warfare. High above the waves, an early warning plane expands the tactical view. Deep in the rear, passive sensors scan the coast for signs of life or danger. One target stays dark, another blips, then fades into silence. A third signal stays solid too long to be just static. That is the one, an emitter holding a steady heat source. Vehicle signatures detected, a likely launcher site. The strike lead hears the intel update as his jet moves on to the catapult. He does not need the details. He just needs a pressure point. That is the spot where a clean hit forces the battery to move or die. He has it. At 5:28, the first American jets launch. They launch in sequence, noses pointed east, staying low before climbing into the dawn sky. Behind them, the aircraft carrier keeps moving. Still defended and alert, expecting the enemy to take one final shot before the trap shuts. The escort ships never blink. Their radars stay locked on the horizon. Tactical teams keep watching the screens for any incoming missiles. Even with the strike team in the air, the danger remains high. That paranoia is what keeps a fleet alive. It is not about anger. It is discipline. Then, the first hit. An Iranian radar that held steady for 2 minutes suddenly spikes, flickers, and vanishes from the screen. A second later, a new signal pops up inland, weak and desperate. Just a backup node trying to take over a fight it already lost. The air warfare commander monitors the shifting tactical map. They are handing off control. Too little, too late. Offshore, the American strike fighters press the attack. The coast that seemed protected minutes ago is now wide open. Their entire kill chain is exposed. Every pulse and thermal signature has made their positions easy to track and map. Iran launched from the coast, thinking distance would keep their batteries safe. Instead, the missile launch revealed exactly where they were and how they fight. That was the error. Not just firing first, but firing and missing. At 5:31, a pilot reports contact on the main target zone. That pilot does not see a battlefield. He sees heat signatures, metal, and geometry. A launch site on the coast, support trucks, and a radar unit trying to hide when it is already too late. He rolls in. Out on the perimeter, the escorts watch the water. The carrier stays steady at the center. On the coast, the site that tried to sink a U.S. carrier is now seconds away from being erased. At 5:31 local time, the horizon flashes for the pilots screaming in low over the waves. It is not a cinematic moment, at least not emotionally. There is no cheering in the cockpit. No time to watch the explosion, just confirmation and moving to the next threat. The main launch site from earlier is now just a flickering wreck on the sensor screens. Heat blooms scattering, radar failing, and vehicles burning or frozen in place. Main target suppressed. The report comes over the radio, flat and strictly professional. A moment later, another voice chimes in. Still no new launches detected. Out at sea, inside the American carrier strike group, the battle has finally turned. It is not that the danger is gone, it is that the tempo has shifted. For the first time since those missiles launched from the Iranian coast, the strike group is no longer just taking hits. Now, it owns the momentum. Escorts are still scanning every corridor. Fire control teams are glued to their consoles. weapons remain at the ready. The network is finally hunting outward, searching for targets, not just threats. Sea lanes ahead are quiet, and the shoreline that tried to dictate the fight is now under pressure. Up on the carrier bridge, nobody is mistaking this moment for safety. The admiral studies the tactical display as reports arrive in short, clipped fragments. One launcher destroyed, one radar site gone, one backup emitter disrupted. Reports show possible vehicle movement inland. No confirmed third salvo. That last detail matters. Just minutes ago, the strike group was bracing for the next wave. Now, the Iranian kill chain is shattered and struggling. Even its surviving elements are struggling to coordinate. The carrier is still underway, steady, strong, and intact. In the middle of the formation, jets are still launching and landing. Deck crews are back at work under a sky that, less than 15 minutes ago, was a corridor of fire. That is the real test. The mission did not fail. The operations did not stop. The ships did not scatter. The carrier never lost its flight deck. Iran launched from the coast expecting chaos, disruption, and maybe even panic. Instead, they just revealed something far more dangerous for their own survival. The full, lethal rhythm of a United States Navy response. Detect, absorb, isolate, and strike back before the enemy can even reset. On one of the escort destroyers, the close-in weapons crew remains ready even after the immediate danger has passed. Their system shredded the missile that came closest to hitting the carrier, the one that slipped inside the ring and forced the final shield to fire. They know how thin the margin was and how close the debris fell. They know the sound of a sea-skimming missile dying right on top of them. Nobody on that ship thinks this victory is comfortable, not after a morning like this. Below deck, damage control teams finish their checks. A few escorts show shock alerts from those near intercepts. Exposed gear needs rechecking. Technicians are out inspecting the radar antennas. Weapon mounts are verified, but the status report remains the same across the group. No ships lost, no missions killed, and the strike group is unbroken. The formation holds, it lives, and it lives in order. Farther east, strike aircraft continue to push the advantage just to make sure the shoreline stays quiet. Not recklessly, and not for the spectacle. Just enough to ensure the surviving batteries do not get a second chance to fire. That restraint is just as powerful as the counterstrike itself. The objective was never just noise, it was total control. That is where the message finally lands. Iran's coastal battery assumed their shore position gave them some protection. Fire from land, force the Navy on defense, then hide behind the terrain. But coastal warfare only works if the first wave creates total paralysis. If the attack fails, the launch itself just becomes evidence. Radar emissions become coordinates, thermal blooms become markers, the firing chain becomes a map, and maps can be hunted. By 5:40 local time, the sea surrounding the carrier group seems unchanged. The horizon remains a pale, flat gray. The water is still. Outer escorts maintain their distance while the cruiser holds its position on station. That carrier pushes ahead, moving with the same heavy confidence she showed before the initial launch. But beneath that calm surface, the balance has shifted. Now, Iran has made the first move. Iran lost its edge. They just exposed the location and layout of their entire coastal launch network. And the United States Navy responded exactly as it has trained to do for decades. Stay disciplined. Wait for the enemy's first move to transform into their absolute worst mistake. This is the part people miss. The side firing first doesn't necessarily control the outcome of the fight. The side that maintains command of the sequence does. At 5:42, the final assessment of that first engagement settles in across the entire strike group. One near miss, multiple clean intercepts, one battery silenced, and no follow-up salvo in sight. Carrier operations continue, a clean tactical result, but it was far from easy. Because everyone in that strike group knows what this morning was really about. A reminder that modern naval warfare is decided in split seconds. That the gap between a warning and the impact is shorter than most people can imagine. The margin between a successful defense and total catastrophe is often just one system, one crew, or one burst of fire. The carrier pushes forward. Her escorts remain on high alert. That coastline remains under watch. Over the internal comms, the prevailing mood is anything but a celebration. It feels colder than that, more professional, and much more dangerous. The group found the battery, and the battery has been neutralized. Next time, if another launcher on that shore decides to fire toward open water, it will do so knowing exactly what is coming back. No outrage, no confusion. Only American steel arriving in sequence.